my channel, or welcome back to my channel. My name is Andy, sometimes Mouse, and I talk about books and book-related things, and today I am giving you my April wrap-up. And in a surprising twist, I'm actually filming it a reasonable amount of time towards the end of the month. It is April the 29th. Tomorrow's the last day of April, so here I am giving you my wrap-up. As usual, I start with the stats, and then I will tell you my worst book or books of the month, and then I will tell you my best book or books of the month. So stick around for those at the end if that is the part you enjoy the best. So let's talk about the stats first. I read a total of 25 books. The total pages read was 2,360 pages. The audiobook hours I listened to was 212 hours and 46 minutes. That is a total of 8 days, 20 hours and 46 minutes, if you wanted it as days. My average pages per day was 142.8, and my average hours per day was 6 hours and 56 minutes and 24 seconds. My average rating this month was a 3.6, which I think is kind of on par with the way that the rest of the year has been so far. You know, we're getting towards that, well, we're already at the end of the first, quarter, and I guess that would be 3 months would have been the end of the first quarter. I don't know, corporate terms, it doesn't matter. But we're reaching that halfway mark realistically, and it seems like in the 3.4 to 3.6 range is pretty on par with my average rating for the year, so it's been kind of interesting to see reveal itself to me. I think each year my average rating just like goes down because I get a little bit harsher with my, maybe not harsher, but more honest with my reviews. I purchased a total of 2 books for a total of $21.26. Couldn't tell you what those 2 books were. One of them was, no, I could tell you. One of them was a Seanan McGuire book, and the other one was Bury Your Gaze. I knew exactly what it was. Look at that. I checked out a total of 9 library books, which saved me $171.05. I reread a total of 7 books. I listened to 17 audiobooks. I read 6 ebooks and 2 physical books. The physical books just like keep getting lower and lower each month. The intended audiences of those books was 17 adult books, 8 young adult books, and 0 children's or middle grade books. And for genres, which in a couple of months, by the time this comes out, I think it's a couple of months, that I will be posting my book blanket updates. So you'll get to see kind of how these genres reflect on the book blanket. But I read a total of 12 fantasy, 2 romance, 1 historical, 3 thrillers, 6 horror, 1 general nonfiction. So not as many nonfictions as it has been in the previous months, but I'm not too mad about it, and I think I'm going to be making up for it next month anyway, so happy birthday to me, right? And that's it. Those are my stats. I have the tendency to run through those really fast. Sorry in advance, but mostly sorry to editing me who has to put the text up on the screen really quickly. But those are the stats. So let's go ahead and talk about the worst books of this month, of which I was surprised by both of them, honestly. First up, we have Pandora's Jar by Natalie Haynes. This is the worst book of the month because it positions itself to be this conversation. Rather, it positions itself as like, what if we retold these Greek mythology stories into a different perspective? And that's quite literally not at all what happens in this book. It is, let's put together all of these different versions of these stories and present them to you and give you my loose opinion of them through a feminist lens, which is fine, I guess, except that I already knew most of these different versions of it and could have formulated those opinions on my own, and if I had known that that's what this book was, I wouldn't have read it. So sometimes I wonder if I should really count these as negative reads because they weren't marketed correctly, but they weren't marketed correctly, which means it was not a good book because it's not the book that you marketed to me, if that makes sense. So that's something that I find a little bit frustrating, honestly, but here we are. Anyway, the next one I'm still super bummed about was An Education in Malice by S.T. Gibson. I had really high expectations for this, and I guess that's, on me. I shouldn't have had high expectations for it. But I enjoyed A Dowry of Blood so much from S.T. Gibson that I have really high expectations for yet another vampire book from this author. Unfortunately, this book doesn't do anything special. It's dark academia, but just because it's set in a school. She's a vampire, but doesn't really matter. And there's some whirlwind romancy things happening, but there aren't really any seeming like there's no stakes. wooden or otherwise. There's no stakes here to keep my interest. I couldn't tell you anything about the school. Yes, they're in for literature, but so are a lot of people in dark academia. That's like a really common theme in dark academia, is that the people that are main characters are there for writing. They're like almost always there for writing. Why? Are authors okay? Like, are you guys all right? I'm concerned. But none of the stakes were high enough for me to care. It didn't do anything new. It didn't do anything interesting. It combined a bunch of different other dark academia books that were young adult, that I probably could name you at least 4 of them, that all felt similar. It wasn't anything new, special, or unique. Even in the Sapphic sphere, it wasn't anything new, special, or unique, and that's sad, but even in the Sapphic sphere, it didn't bring anything new to the table to me personally. And so I just was bored, honestly. I was bored. I find a lot of the time young adult dark academia books do bore me, but I had high expectations for this because I enjoy the author and because it was Sapphic. But unfortunately, it was just like every other dark academia book in the young adult sphere at the moment. Uneventful, not that unique. It didn't bring anything new to the table for me personally. Maybe somebody else has a different opinion, or they have a different opinion about dark academia in the young adult sphere at the moment, and that's great if you do, but this is just my personal opinion. So anyway, let's move on to the books I actually liked this month. The top 3 books that I actually liked this month. All 3 of them are from what I was reading during Sapphic Spring, which I didn't expect at all. One of them is a graphic novel, and I didn't expect it to be genuinely one of my new favorites, period, point blank. Like, I loved this, and I'm going to talk about that one first. And that is going to be The Marble Queen because of course I didn't write it down. Why am I like this? The Marble Queen by Anna Kopp. I'll put the cover here. First off, the illustrations and the art are absolutely beautiful. The story was heartwarming and heart-wrenching. I was invested. I didn't expect to be. I was 50% in, and I was telling everybody that I knew that likes Sapphic comics or graphic novels, I was like, you have to read this now. You have to read this yesterday. I don't know why you haven't read it already, because I just recommended it to you and you should be reading it right now. There's some triggering content in it, but the way that it talks about anxiety and like traumas and the past sort of defining some of your current and future relationships and how to work through some of that was really well done. It just, again, the story was incredible. The feelings in it, like I could feel them, like it felt very real despite being in a fantasy realm. Political high stakes and just overall really incredible, and I'm very glad that I read it. Next we have The Invocations by Crystal Sutherland. I think this is a young adult book, but it could be an adult book, and I'm just not 100% sure if it is or not. But I deeply enjoyed this. It's very Scapegracers vibes, which if you have been following the channel for a little while, you'll know that when I first read Scapegracers, I was like life-changing, and then reread it like 4 more times that same year. I enjoyed Scapegracers so much by August Clark or H.A. Clark, depending on where you get the book, on what edition of it is. This feels like that, but written by Crystal Sutherland. Like, it feels like Crystal's way of writing that concept, like women's magic being so innately like feral and wild and incredible, and like take down men for being witch hunters and shitty and all of those things. Like, if you enjoyed Scapegracers, I highly recommend The Invocations by Crystal Sutherland. Like, it really is one of my favorite books that I read this month, obviously, or it wouldn't be on this list. And then last but not least, we have So Let Them Burn by Camilla Cole. This, I think, is a part of a series, so fair warning on that. And it is a young adult fantasy, but which isn't generally like my shtick these days, especially for like my favorite books. But this one I felt did world building really, really well. I was deeply invested. I cared about both points of view in the book. I cared about every side character struggle, and even the romantic relationships that were occurring at the same time. Like, I actually cared about everything happening in the book, which doesn't happen very frequently. There's a lot of the time there's filler and extra side character drama that I just don't care about, and romances that I'm like, okay, get on with it, let's get to the plot of the story. But the romance being interwoven into the actual, like, meat of the story didn't feel like a distraction, didn't feel like it added on for whatever, like, for bullshit reasons. Like, it felt well done. I enjoyed the way that they discussed, like, dragons and language and even colonization to a point, and I don't know, it was really well done. I love a story wherein someone has to be a hero as a child, and, like, what do they do when they get older? Like, the repercussions of that. And in this story, someone, the main character, basically becomes a conduit for the gods themselves at a really young age, saves the country from a war, and then what? You know, she's bitter about this, and misuses this power, and as she becomes a teenager, because of course she does, right? And so the way that that conversation is held in this book was really, really well done, and I enjoyed it a lot. I'm excited to read the next book. I'm always hesitant about sequels. Like, part of me is like, I could just read this book and I'd be good to go. So I need to double check that this is a part of a series. Hopefully Editing Me will take a look and let you know, because I don't know off the top of my head. If it's not, honestly, again, I would be happy just ending on that note. It was really well done. Again, the world building, all of it. That's another thing, is like, the magic system made sense to me. And as somebody who has aphantasia and reads so much, sometimes the magic systems are so overtly complex or use just so many, like, made up terms that I'm like, I can't keep up with what's happening here. Like, there's too much going on. Not enough is being either explained to me or shown to me. And this balanced it out really, really well, both in explaining and showing. Yeah, this was a really good book. I enjoyed it a lot. And I think it was on one of my releases videos, so fun for me. Love that. But that's it, actually. Those are the top books of the month for me. It's going to be very hard for me to choose which one is going to be, like, my pick of the month so that I can break them down at the end of the year, but those are my top books for April. Obviously, we talked about the worst books for April. But overall, I would say it was a really solid reading month. I enjoyed most of the books that I read, and it wasn't hard to pick the books that I didn't enjoy. Sometimes I'm like, oh, there wasn't anything that I, like, distinctly disliked. No, I had books I distinctly disliked this month, but even still, I had so many more that I enjoyed, and some that, like, I enjoyed so much that I immediately wrote them down in my top books, in my, you know, little book tracker I've been using, which has been really helpful for wrap-up videos, by the way. So yeah, that's it. That's the video. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you've read any of these books and you enjoyed them or didn't enjoy them, let me know in the comments down below. I love having these conversations, and hopefully I explained what I liked about the books pretty well. I'm trying to get better about that. If you didn't enjoy this video and it is something that I can do better, please let me know in the comments down below how I can make this a better experience for you. If it's about my opinion, though, I'm not changing it. Fight me. Don't fight me, but I'm not changing it. I post videos every Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, except for the first full week of the month. I think that's it. I think that's everything. So I will see you guys later on Thursday. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share. And also, Clear Your Shit should be starting soon. So, maybe it should be starting soon. So hopefully you guys are looking forward to that. I will talk to you guys later, though. Don't forget to take your meds, drink your water, and do something today to take care of yourselves. Okay, thanks. Bye.